Hello and welcome again to the Skillwork Forum. I appreciate you joining us. I'm Tim, and as always, joined with my partner Brett here from Skillwork today. We're really thrilled to have a special guest with us, Miss Allison Grealis, who leads an organization that we're very passionate about. It's an organization called Women in Manufacturing. We've talked a lot on this podcast in the past about how we grow interest and participation in manufacturing, particularly for us on the skilled trades spectrum of that. How do we get more people interested, especially the up-and-coming generations and those that maybe traditionally haven't been involved in the skilled trades, involved and interested into this really exciting and growing sector, manufacturing, particularly for us, it's a skilled trades portion of that. So, Allison, welcome to the Skillwork Forum. We're really grateful to have you here. We got a chance to hear you. I've actually got a chance to hear you a couple of times speaking at trade shows and forums about something you're really passionate about is bringing women into the manufacturing space. You're the president of Women in Manufacturing, and just thank you so much for your time to speak into this important space here with Brett and I today.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have our conversation.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, our part of this is we are trying to help solve the gap that manufacturers have with getting the right level of skilled and even the right numbers of skilled craftsmen and women into the workplace. And that's something we do across the country. And right now, I can tell you that we're in 38 states around the country, and we've got about 10% of our workforce are women. We were very proactive about trying to do that, but we really would like to grow that. So how did you get involved in this whole passion that you're now pursuing, manufacturing space, particularly women in manufacturing? How did you get involved with that, and speak a little bit about some of the challenges and thoughts you have around that?
Yeah, like many people, when I was younger in age and as well when I was in high school and college, I didn't know much about manufacturing careers. As I went to pursue my education, I first found a position and job working with a not-for-profit in Boston, Massachusetts, and then had a one-year stint there, came back to Ohio, Akron, which is where I lived and grew up, and went to graduate school for a degree in public administration. And my first career kind of professional job after grad school, I found working with a trade association. So I had no idea what a trade association was. I had an interest and passion around mobilizing people for a common cause or for mission-oriented work. And so I was really intrigued to find this opportunity to work with a metal forming trade association, which had members all over the United States. And it was mainly comprised of small to mid-sized privately held company business leaders and owners who were looking to not only be competitively in this manufacturing space, but as well to nurture and to support their talent. So I've been doing trade association work for 22 years. And while working with this trade association, I found that there were a lot of women who were now parts of many of the leadership teams of these privately held companies. So again, these were mainly privately held family-run businesses. So they were often daughters or nieces or family members that were in a leadership role who were looking for support. So we started to try to help them find others in the metal forming space to connect with and to benchmark with. So we created some programming, and we had our first female chairperson in 2010. Sadly, still the only female chairperson that organization has had, but she was really passionate about connecting these women in metal forming. So we started to look for resources for this group and found, as I did my due diligence, that shockingly enough, there was not a national or larger entity that supported women in industry. I came up with the concept with this volunteer leader and some other staff people to create what was a summit or a meeting to bring together women in industry beyond just metal forming. And we had that first event 13 years ago, and we had 133 people come from all over the country. We had owners of small companies. We had people from Fortune 500 and large companies who all really had that passion and interest in networking and finding others like them. And then as well, being able to share information and resources and support. So from that first summit that we had in Cleveland, Ohio, there was immediate interest in how do I join? How do I stay connected? So I then went back to our office, created a business plan for how to structure membership, formal membership, and an association model for this group. So again, that's been now more than a decade ago that we started. And it's been so amazing to be able to now support women in industry year round. And there's 3.4 million women in manufacturing. And so we have now risen to more than 26,000 members in every U.S. state and in 50 plus countries. But we know there's so many more with that large number of population that we could be reaching and should be reaching. So that's one of our biggest initiatives as we continue as an organization for the future.
Wow. So starting with 132 and built it up to 26,000 active members in about a decade. That's pretty impressive. So
It is, yeah, 3.4 million. Just a quick question, Allison. What level of, it's still a low percentage of, because I know when we look at the numbers and you say trying to increase participation, getting more women in is a big cause, which obviously you're leading because it's still a big gap. There's not that, still a low level of participation, especially in the skilled trades side. But what are you seeing on the numbers, and are they growing? Obviously, they are growing.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when we started our work, women were a little more than 27% of the manufacturing workforce. In the past decade, we've risen to now be a solid 30% of the manufacturing workforce. So while those 3 percentage points are modest, it's still growth. And so we see more women entering manufacturing careers, but as well, we see more women who are rising in leadership, which is really exciting. I mean, our goal is not only to get more women into manufacturing, but as well to help them rise, because we know if they can be in leadership positions, they can impact cultures and policies, and then as well be a great role model and inspiration for other women to see that they can as well be a leader in a manufacturing company. So modest growth over the last decade. Right now, I think our current stat as of our research that was done in early part of 2023 this year was about 1 in 4 manufacturing professionals are female. So we know that we, again, can increase that number and that representation. And again, trying to grow people at all levels. Interestingly, too, there's a data point from the Census Bureau that came a year or so back that showed that, interestingly, before pandemic, women rose in every age classification and manufacturing over the prior decade. So from 2010 to 2020, again, before pandemic, women had risen in every age classification and manufacturing. So we were growing actually at a stronger pace in manufacturing than were our male counterparts. So there's been improvement, there's been growth. And I think we've also seen a spike up and a rise post-pandemic and recovery of women re-entering at larger rates as well. So there's lots of reasons, I think, contributing to that, but we hope we're one of those impacting factors that's helps more people be aware of manufacturing.
yeah, I'm interested in those metrics that you took. Allison, are you looking at that across like the different roles and functions from leadership all the way down to frontline production? And I'm interested in whether you guys look at kind of the sector we're focused in, which seems to be a real pain point, which is those higher end skilled technicians that can manage some of the new robotics and smart manufacturing technologies that we're seeing. Have you segmented that, and do you have any thoughts on that portion of the manufacturing space?
Yeah, we're very close to looking at the demographics of not only our members, but as well women in industry. So in looking at areas where at least we're represented, our membership, I would say the vast majority of them are at a manager level and above. And many of them have degree level skills, but we also have a growing population of women in production. That is one of our areas of focus, because when I started the organization, sadly, we didn't have many people participating from production level roles because unfortunately they had restrictions. Obviously, many of them don't even have access to an email or a laptop or a way to really get connected to our resources. So that's been a very large effort, the last 3 years in particular, to create special programming for those in the skilled trades and those that want to advance in their skill learning. And we launched in 2021 a program called Empowering Women in Production, which has been highly powerful. We graduate and close out each of the sessions that we offer, which are 3 times a year. We've graduated close to 400 women from that program. And our goal is to support them not only as they're in their production level role, but we provide them coaching and assessments. And then as well, we work as a companion piece with their leadership at their facility to help them stay in industry and continue to rise. So we do see the skilled trades being an area of focus for us. And we also are very active in apprenticeship programs. So while we're not a credentialing area or unit or partner, an outreach partner, for example, with Jobs for the Future, to try to recruit more women into apprenticeship programs. So again, this is a great way for them to support themselves and their families, and obviously to get portable skills that they can take to other professions and to careers in manufacturing and company in the future. So look at our demographics, it's still a smaller percentage of those that are directly in manufacturing and production, but we're hoping that can grow as well as we leverage technology too. Like, for example, that program for Empowering Women in Production is 100% virtualized. It's a learn at your own pace program so that women who are in production level roles, who maybe don't have access again to technology, they can do it all from their phone. Again, we're trying to be really cognizant of meeting people where they are for their training and learning.
Yeah, and I think I heard you talk about this a little bit, and it seems to be a common theme is that the culture out there over the last, let's call it last 30 years, has cast this shadow on manufacturing and industry, and certainly our area of it, that it's like an afterthought. You're less than if you go into this, that it's almost like high schools, career guidance counselors, so forth, just steer people towards an avenue away from manufacturing and industry, and particularly the skilled trades part of it. Do you see it, part of the advocacy is towards changing the cultural paradigms about it?
Definitely. I mean, I see that as a big role as an organization to really be a spokes group and spokes entity about manufacturing careers. We do that through lots of different ways. We have a very active social presence. So one of the things we launched back in 2012 was a series called Hear Her Story, that we feature the stories of women in industry to ideally inspire future generations and people looking for career opportunities to understand kind of what does a day in the life look like in manufacturing and lots of different roles and responsibilities, but as well to talk about what are those things that are applicable in terms of personal interest and how does that match with manufacturing opportunities. So Hear Her Story has reached many people through our blog series, but now we also host a podcast that I host on a monthly basis, and we profiled on more than 30 women and told their stories in manufacturing. And to your point about making manufacturing careers a desired pathway, one of the things is just changing perception. So we try to promote how high earning these manufacturing careers can be, and then is how very valuable and how very rewarding these careers can be through this series and these stories that we share. And as well looking at demographics, so we try to share kind of the earning percentages and the differences between those of people that went to a 4-year educational institution versus directly into the skilled trades. So we're trying and working with others as well and with our member companies to change those perceptions about manufacturing. And we hope that we have success. And our chapters are also critical units to help us. We've got 33 local chapters of women throughout the country. And so they have been amazing spokespeople for what modern manufacturing looks like. Many of them are very active within their educational institutions and with career counselors, and are year-round trying to do outreach so that they can better illuminate what modern manufacturing looks like to inspire hopefully more to go into them, these professions and these career opportunities.
So we're all trying to figure out how to attract the next generation, and part of that next generation are women into the manufacturing space. So do you think or do you guys find in your research, is it a combination of perception and awareness, or kind of what are you seeing in the challenges to attract more women into not just manufacturing, but skilled trades and manufacturing?
I think the biggest piece is awareness. I think that too often women don't realize that there are so many opportunities within manufacturing, that it's not just working a punch press or working a piece of equipment, that there's a lot of different opportunities within manufacturing. And so that is why we're trying to showcase all of these different types of roles and responsibilities that women have. And I think with automation, there's even more increased attractiveness to work in manufacturing. I mean, we have now a lot of these things that maybe would have been more manual that are now turning towards something that's more high tech. So when you look at programming and robotics and AI and its application within manufacturing facilities, I think it can be even a bigger, more attractive draw to this generation of talent that has grown up with technology, that wants to be interactive with using devices, technology as a way that they live. And now if you could apply it to your workplace, how even better is that? So I think perception is a big thing. And so it has to start early. I mean, I think based on research we've seen, you've got to reach someone before 6th grade and expose them to manufacturing to increase their likelihood to choose a manufacturing career. So the more that we can have our chapter leaders and our members, the ambassadors within local communities to talk about manufacturing, to go to career days. So that's one of the biggest things that we're encouraging our membership to do is, hey, these 26,000 people we're connected to, when you have the opportunity to speak to youth groups and or to schools about career opportunities, talk about manufacturing careers and talk about your experience in manufacturing. I mean, our members are really impressive. And I wish I had known about all of these opportunities in manufacturing when I was selecting my career pathway, because there are so many things that I think would be very rewarding to the vast majority of our population.
Yeah, you mentioned your podcast and the stories that you guys promote, and I've seen some of those tracking down through YouTube, and I'm compelled. I think most people are by stories, and I wonder, do you have one on maybe the top of head? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe a story from one of your members that was in this space that you thought was really compelling, that highlights this opportunity or excitement that can be generated by somebody in this. Do you have any stories you'd like to share about any of your members or somebody you highlighted maybe?
Yeah, there's so many stories I could share. I mean, our podcast has featured so many women, for example, who had non-traditional pathways into manufacturing. I think that's what our goal, as an industry and as an organization is to get more women to select manufacturing as a career of choice rather than fall into it. So on our podcast, I would say most of the women fell into manufacturing based on an experience or an interaction. And so a few that stand out to me, one, for example, was a woman who is a leader now in a manufacturing vertical. And she had exposure from first going to a career awareness day at her high school and had no idea what manufacturing was, and saw an employer there who was talking about manufacturing careers in a co-op program. And she knew she liked problem solving. She knew she liked to fix things, and was really intrigued when this employer was talking about the things that she might be able to do that were like that, or that would use those skill sets in a co-op position. So she took this co-op position, and that then started now a 20-year plus career for her. It's been very profitable and challenging and rewarding in manufacturing. So it's those small interactions that if we can pique interest and talk about how these days and these careers, no day is ever the same. Interestingly enough, last night I was at an event and talked to a woman who herself is in her 60s. And she said, I've just not been able to yet find that perfect career that matches with me wanting to have no day that's the same and to be active in problem solving. And like, have you ever thought about manufacturing? Just don't talk enough about these types of really cool positions that you can have that are not going to be something mundane and boring. And often they're not repetitive. And so that was one person that I thought of, this woman in Detroit who's now had a very successful career. And I think present day is in automotive. And there's many stories like that. One person, for example, who participated in our Leadership Institute. It's a partner program we do with Case Western Reserve University. It's meant for those who aspire to and or are director level people and women in manufacturing. And we had a woman the first year who, while she didn't fit the traditional audience of the program, was aspiring to someday be a leader. So at the time, she held a position of office manager in a small privately held machine shop, and came to the program, and she was able to participate in coaching and peer group counseling, and had some great faculty members that helped inspire her to want to try to rise in this privately held company. And over the last decade, she rose to different positions and now is actually co-owner and president of her small machine shop after first starting as an office manager. So she found a network, she found a skilled training and education, and obviously pursued some additional education outside of just that coursework. But there's such opportunity and in all facets. And so we're really just trying to highlight that, not to sound too corny, but people can be it if they can see it. And then as well, harkening back to that whole kind of Rosie mantra that we can do it. And it's that concept of trying to kind of support these women in understanding these opportunities and their ability to fill so many of these open positions. And when we look at the landscape of manufacturing, I think present day we're at more than 500,000 open manufacturing positions. We've got to look at women as one of these populations that can fill so many of these skilled trade openings. And women make up half the workforce. Women are graduating at larger degrees with 4-year degrees and more. So we've got to somehow better promote manufacturing to them so that they make this a career of choice.
It's not just a good thing to do or right thing to do, but it's really crucial to our country and the growth. And Brett talks a lot about this kind of golden age that we're seeing now, a lot of infrastructure investment happening, a lot of growth for the company. We've seen some risks that came as a result of the pandemic to our supply chain. We have to grow internally, and we have to be able to do that. It's not just the right thing to do. It's a business necessity that we tap into that. So,
yeah, no, I don't know if your organization has spent some time. I'm sure you're aware. You just mentioned the number a minute ago, whether it's 1.5 million, 2 million, whatever it is. It's a lot of people that we're short. But one of the things we've been geeking out on a little bit lately, trying to figure out, is this whole onshoring back of semiconductor production and the CHIPS Act and all that's creating in this. And it's interesting because you just said a minute ago that the higher technology, and obviously these facilities are hyper clean, and it's just a very almost futuristic type manufacturing facility compared to the rubber and tire facility that I think you said your dad has a little different facility than the one they're making semiconductors in. But from that standpoint, clearly, when you look at the available pool of our country that can basically come in and fill these jobs, the most untapped is women. And so what have you guys spent any time in looking into the semiconductor? I know there's a couple plants, I think, they're either expanding or being built in Ohio, which is where you are, I think more in the Columbus area, maybe Intel or somebody. But have you guys looked at that, and what do you think?
Reshoring has obviously been a thing and reshoring, is really spirited and has increased over the last few years, given a lot of these supply chain challenges. And people have realized that they need to source wherever possible close to home. So it is creating new opportunities, new facilities here in the United States. And I think one of the things we've tried to do is to really spirit a lot of exposure around what modern manufacturing facilities look like. So, for example, our large annual summit that we hold each fall, last year, this past current fall in September, we hosted more than 1,700 people in San Diego, California. And one of the biggest pieces of that conference is not only 70 plus educational tracks and lots of opportunity to network, but to showcase facilities in modern manufacturing. So we conducted, I think it was 15 plant tours. Next year, we'll be doing around 20 plant tours when we head to Boston, but to again showcase for the live audience what modern facilities look like in manufacturing plants. But as well, we do virtual plant tours too, because that dingy, dirty facility is not the norm. And that's a rarity present day when you look at what manufacturing looks like. So we want to showcase these modern, clean, high tech facilities so that women realize if I enter manufacturing, this is what it looks like. Yes, I may still wear steel-toed boots for protection purposes, but they're going to, in most instances, be very clean environments and very high-tech environments where they could feel safe and supported and find a great place to work. And so I think the exposure piece is important. And we do have a lot of member companies that were impacted by the chip shortage. Obviously, lots of automotive companies, there has been this new opportunity that's arisen with these reshoring of these facilities to provide even more openings and opportunities for women. So again, showcasing what new facilities and modern facilities look like. And again, there's been a huge shift. When I started working with manufacturing companies 22 years ago, flexibility was you didn't have policies around DE&I, and you didn't have women's affinity groups. Some places I used to tour when I was in my 20s didn't even have a female restroom, and I would have to go to a supply closet to go to a restroom because they just weren't prepared for a large female workforce. So there have been great improvements over the last 20 years that have been working and connected to manufacturing. And I think that's just going to increase. When we conducted our annual survey with Xometry, a Thomas company, earlier this year, we asked women, and we had about, I think it was 1,800 respondents. And they shared with us, what is it that you're looking for in a manufacturing career or just career generally? And the biggest things that came out of that are women are looking for, isn't even just women, current people looking for positions want flexibility. And women in particular cited that they're looking for a company that can support their childcare needs, because that is a consideration. So if we want to fill men, we've got to take into account that there's a good percentage of them that are parents and caregivers. So how do we accomplish that? And so manufacturing companies are getting really creative with voucher programs. Some even have invested with on-site childcare for their employees. How do we support flexibility? Which again, back 20 years ago, there was very little of that manufacturing. And pandemic, thankfully, caused many companies to rethink their ability to provide flexible work schedules for people. And then as well, childcare is a big issue. And then the third thing that we heard from our respondents was their interest in professional development and increasing their skills. So they're looking for companies that are going to invest in their professional development and their upskilling. So when we talk to manufacturing companies, we often share, if you want to increase the number of females at your facilities and in your company, you have to think about how are we addressing these things. And then if you look generationally, we have 5 generations in the workforce. A lot of the current younger generations of talent really care as well about sustainability. So we talk to companies about how are you promoting and addressing ESG? How are you living a sustainable culture? And then how are you showcasing that to your future workforce? It's all about perception, and companies are getting really creative and investing a lot of money in their storytelling on social channels and places where new generations of talent exist to talk about here's what a day in the life looks like. I recently was on Instagram and saw Mars Candy Company, for example, and Mars is one of our corporate members. They did a great fun reel about a day in the life of going to Mars for work. And it's just creating that storytelling and using technology that current people looking for jobs or who will be looking for jobs are on to promote this is why you should come work here. Right? I think all of those considerations are really important as we try to fill these positions.
That's great insight. And we talked a little bit about AI and some of the technology. And I raise daughters, and I also have a very gifted wife, and they're very good at some of the skills that are going to be required more and more. You mentioned problem solving, the ability to manage a lot of complexity at the same time. And I see it all the time with my daughters and their careers. And I really think in the advent of flexibility in the workforce, I really think that it truly is a great time for us to bring them into the workforce. We have to raise awareness, like you say, but I think that a lot of people are afraid of AI and technology. It's going to replace people. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to transition and provide more opportunity for people whose skills, particularly, you can't paint with a broad brush, but my experience has been I think there's great opportunity for inherent skill set that women bring that are going to be great for our focus area, which is how do you fix some of this advanced robotics and how do you integrate AI into the workplace? So what are your thoughts on that? I think it's a great fit.
No, I think women are the perfect fit for most and not, if not all of these positions that are opened. I think it's just, we look at different ways that recruiting happens. And I think that when we talk to manufacturing companies, they've had it really creative in how they're recruiting and as well how they're talking about their open positions. So often companies were promoting positions and they weren't very realistic about what are those core requirements that we need for this position versus it'd be nice to have. So it was, I think, throwing a lot of candidates out of the pool because companies were being a bit too stringent and unrealistic when they were posting positions. So I think, and we know that women have a tendency that if they don't match on all of those requirements for position, they're less likely to apply. So companies just there have started to get more creative in how they basically will post positions and in outline and detail positions to, again, hopefully broaden to a different workforce. I think technology, like you said, is going to create a whole new slew of positions that never existed before. So that integration of AI and new technology is not replacing people, it's creating new positions that are more sophisticated for those people that maybe had less sophisticated positions before. So I think that's, again, going to match even more wonderfully with this female workforce and this female pool of people who we know, again, are advancing and graduating with larger degrees and or expertise and knowledge that they can fit into and be perfect matches for many of these maybe even more advanced positions than what were prior. I've done lots of research on AI and these new positions, and I think it's exciting. It's exciting that these new things that never existed will be there for this future workforce. And interestingly enough, I think AI is also going to create equal importance on those people that are in the skilled trades, because those positions can't be replaced. You can't replace that technology or that journeymanship or journeywomanship for many of those more technical positions. And so I think that excitingly, it's going to create a new slew of more advanced positions, but as well, I think, harken this importance of the skilled trades and these people that have these very amazing abilities with working with dyes and tool and die and in these areas that aren't going to be replaceable by ChatGPT and such.
That's good.
Yep, no, we agree 100%. So,
yeah, just as we let you go here, Allison, yeah, any final thoughts or things we didn't cover? And again, we are working hard. Our generation is embracing just not only millennials, but now Gen Z, and they have different thoughts, different motivations. You mentioned concern about environmental issues and sustainability. And what could you speak? I haven't spoken to a lot of your members that are younger in the new generation. What can we learn as Brett and I are probably on the lower end of the boomer generation? What can we learn that we need to be aware of as we try to grow a business that's focused on investing in this area?
The guidance we give to companies is that to make yourself a great place to work, you have to be addressing some of these key issues that a current and future workforce is looking for. Looking at how is your leadership comprised, and do you embrace diversity and inclusion at your organization? And are you offering professional development and skilled learning for your workforce? And how are you supporting your talent? Because if you want to be a great place to work, and there's so many options, as we know, that people can seek to work professionally, including being an independent entrepreneur and driving things like Uber and being an influencer and all these crazy new things and pathways that people didn't have back when I was seeking work. Companies have to step up their game and make themselves a great place to work, but to really look at what are these things that this future workforce wants and to match on those things. But also leave with guidance to say, please know we're a resource. So when we talk to companies, so often they're trying to recreate the wheel or create their own women's infrastructure and support. And we really hope to be that for many companies, especially small size companies. We know they don't have often affinity groups for all of their different groups that are part of their population. So we encourage companies to tap into our resources, because that's what we hope to do, is to provide make life easier and make recruitment and retention and attraction easier for manufacturing companies. So I would encourage companies to connect with us as an organization and to let us help them with this heavy lift of trying to recruit, retain, and advance talent.
It's great. And we'll make sure on this podcast, we'll get Women in Manufacturing a link there for people that, that follow what we do here from industry, and tap into that, because I think that's great. Why reinvent the wheel? If you've got an organization that's focused on it day in and day out, we do something similar with trying to fill the staffing gap. You can do all day,
Right.
You can try to do that, or you can tap into us who do it all day, every day. That's what we're passionate about. Super great to get to spend time with you. Really appreciate so much of what you were able to share today, Allison. I think it was a great insight for us, and I'd love to continue to advance your cause in our business as well. It's something we're passionate about. So again, we appreciate so much your time with us here on the Skillwork Forum. Please take a look at the link we'll put here on the podcast. Take a look at Allison and her amazing organization and the work that they're doing in this area. So until next time, we just appreciate you so much listening to us on the Skillwork Forum. Have a great day.